Look at that. Alright, so I'm back in the garage. Going to be working on the XJ a little bit more today. It's been quite a while since I did anything on this because we've been out wheeling a lot, and so I haven't done anything on this in probably almost a month. But it's time to get back going on this and see what I can get done. So now that I've got the frame mostly back pieced together so it hopefully won't fall apart, got the metal welded in there, and there's a couple other spots further down that we had to patch some metal in as well. So now that we got that done, I need to figure out the spring hangers, because there was a bracket that was here for the spring that we lost when we took that chunk of frame, well, that chunk of rusted metal out and replaced it with that. And then also in the back, we got the rear spring hangers, which are still in, but the bolt for the shackle, that's the bottom of the shackle right there. This bolt did not want to come out either. And so I've got these great replacement spring mounts from Barnes that are a lot tougher than the original ones. There's the one for the front mount, and then that's the rear mount. And so I need to get that mount cut out of there and then figure out where I want to put this mount on here. So these Barnes mounts, they come with a nut that goes on the back side here, over here, but they say to just reuse the original bolts for the spring. Well, as I mentioned, my original bolts are still in my springs, but I went to the junkyard and got some springs off of another Jeep, which are significantly less rusty than what I have, and so I have the bolts that came out of those, and so that's what I'm going to use. Yeah, there's a look at one of the springs that came out of the rear, which, I mean, the rust is fine, it's surface rust, but these springs were sagging pretty good anyway, and also the fact that these are so badly rusted in, I couldn't get that out. I figured it was easier just to grab some junkyard springs and use those, and hopefully these won't be sagging as much as the ones were in it either. So I'm just going to work on getting those spring mounts, getting the rear one cut off, maybe figuring out where the Barnes mounts go and tacking them in. We'll see. Don't have a whole lot of time to work on it today, so I'll see what I can get done. Alright, progress. So the reason I was trying to do that is I couldn't get to the top of this. I don't know how well you can hear me with this mask on, but I'll try and talk louder. Anyway, the top of this piece right here, I was able to get to, so hopefully now that I cut that off, I can actually get and cut the rest of that. Alright, now I just need to clean the rest of that up and get the rest of this bracket off of here so that I can see what parts of the frame need replacing, like that right there. That's a nice rust hole. But this actually doesn't look too terrible. Anyway. Alright, so I'm back to working on the XJ again. The last time I was working on cutting off the rear spring shackles, and I got those cut out. I don't remember how much of that I filmed because I was just kind of figuring it out as I went, and there wasn't a whole lot of interesting going on, but I'll show you where I'm at now. So I got the rear shackle off. I need to figure out how to get this piece separated from the frame. I'm hoping I can pry most of that off, or there's some welds I can break, because otherwise I'm gonna have to grind all of that off, and that's gonna suck. I cut out this chunk here, which is part of the rear cross piece. I'll show you that from the back as well. right there. I cut that out because it was pretty rusty. And I also cut a section of this support here, which comes down from the top, and that's probably structural, so I'm planning on reinforcing it, but I couldn't figure out any way to get behind it without cutting that out of the way. This is what it looked like before I cut that out. Again, I'm gonna have to do the same thing here because you can see that's pretty bad back there, and there's no way to I couldn't see any easy way to get to that without cutting this off, so I'm gonna cut that out, and then I'll build my own supports in there once I, to tie it all back together once I'm done. So inside, you can get a look at what I did here. You can see I cut out this. That was pretty much gone. That was rusty on that side, so I'm just gonna put a piece over that. But anyway, on the inside here, I cut out this big piece here, and then I have this as a piece of 1/8 inch. It's just pushed in there right now, but I'll eventually weld that in, and I gotta cut it off on the end here to make it more flush. I'll show you from the bottom. So there's how that looks from the bottom. This piece will go in here. I'm gonna put another piece of this 1/8 inch in right here, tie it into the frame on these two sections. I'm probably gonna cut these ears off. These are the ears on the frame that the bumper usually mounts to. Probably gonna cut those out and then weld in some angle there instead on both sides so that I have a good solid mounting spot for my bumper. Anyway, like I said, I'm gonna put another piece of 1/8 here, probably here, and then all of this is probably gonna get cut out. And you can see on the rear, I don't know what this is, rear quarter panel. But anyway, this little spot here, this was all rusted out, so I just cut that off as well. Probably gonna trim it all back to about that level, maybe even higher. But all of this is probably gonna go away, and I'm gonna keep it gone, just that'll provide me more clearance in the rear, and I don't really need that anyway. So that's my plan. Just gonna start trying to cut and pry things apart to get more of this out of the way so that I can start building it up. Alright, so slight change of plans. Let me show you what I got going on. Alright, so while I was trying to get this spring bracket off, I noticed how bad this is right here. This piece of the frame, that's a rust hole right there. And when I was trying to push in between there with a chisel to pry this away, it was actually pushing through this frame rail because it's so thin. You can see there's a crack right there and the rust hole there, and yeah, that's just really thin. So I think instead of trying to pry this mount off, I'm going to cut this rear section of the frame probably right about here, cut this chunk out and replace that, because that'll give me a lot stronger piece that like I said, the bumper is going to mount to that, and I want it to be strong. I don't plan on towing anything, but if I have to pull anything out that's stuck, or if I need to be pulled out backwards, I want to make sure it's sturdy and not just thin, rusty garbage. So let me figure that out and I'll get back to you. Alright, so this is one of the frame stiffeners from Barnes 4-wheel drive for the rear section of the frame. So it's going to go on somewhere right about there, I think. I need to look underneath and see where it lines up. So I need to cut this somewhere so it's underneath the frame stiffener. Like right about here or something. Let me look at it from the bottom and see what it looks like. Alright, so underneath it lines up with these holes in the frame. So it goes right about there is what it looks like. And so I want to cut this section of the frame right underneath where it's gonna, so there's gonna be a good section. This goes back to about here. Yeah, these holes line up with frame holes, this one as well. So I'm thinking if I cut it right about here, then it'll be underneath this really good, underneath that really well. So let me get a marker and mark where I want to cut that. If I cut it right at the back of this hole right here, I think that'll be right perfect. Obviously, yeah, so also Probably notice I got a little more rust up here I got to figure out. So yeah, that's nice. I just found that hole that's rusted out there, so I'll probably cut a chunk out here too and weld some new metal in there. Alright, but I'm going to need to get this gas tank out of my way. The gas tank has still got gas in it, so I definitely need it out of my way if I'm going to be cutting and welding here, and also just to get to the back of this frame because I can't get in there without hitting it, so I got to figure out that. Alright, so it's coming out, but what's holding me up is the filler neck and the vent tube right there. They each got hose clamps on them, which for some reason are on the top. I don't know who did that, but I gotta try and fit something in up top there and reach over and get those off, so let me try and do that. This what I just noticed. Definitely gonna have to do a little frame repair over on this side too. Look at that. So that's gonna have to get fixed. Nice. Anyway, back to the task at hand. Okay, shouldn't be anything else holding it in now. I think it's just tipped at an angle on it now, so I'll let it down and see what happens. There we go. All right. Ooh. You can see the gas sloshing around is making it tippy still. All right, now that I got the gas tank out of the way, let's have a look underneath and see what we can see. So there we go. Now that the gas tank's gone, we can get a lot better look at this side of the frame. Even though it looks rusty, that's surface rust. That isn't bad there. So I think same thing. Like I had said before, I'm going to cut this side off right here, right about there. We'll replace this back piece right here, which will give us, and I'll tie it in. I'll put something across the back here to tie it in, and then the frame stiffeners will go on the other side. There's also a spot right here that I'm going to need to replace. It looks like I should be able to just cut a chunk out where I have marked here. Cut that out and weld in a new piece. I might have to do something about that too, so I might have to go up a little bit. Maybe I'll take out that corner and put like angle on there or something. I don't know. I'll figure that out. And then over here on the other side, so this side is more interesting because there's this hole, this tube spot in the frame where the filler and the vent tube come through. And also, you can see, as I pointed out earlier, that right there is a giant gaping hole in the bottom of the frame rail. So this one, I'm probably going to have to cut out right about to here, it looks like, because you can see how the frame kind of curves right here and then comes back. So if I can just take this whole back piece right here, this straight piece, replace all of that up to like the curve section so it looks like right about there. If I just cut that out, replace this whole piece, and then I'm going to have to figure out something. I'm going to have to cut a hole in my replacement to go in here as well, so I'll have to figure that out when I get to it. But that should make it a lot easier to work in here now that gas tank is gone, and I don't have to worry about accidentally catching myself on fire, hopefully. You can see the deck isn't actually that bad beneath where the gas tank was. That's still the original paint. Again, we got some surface rust back here and stuff, but that's not terrible. So last time I was looking at this rear spring mount point, and basically I cut a bunch of stuff out here. This is just jammed in there. There we go. I cut a bunch of pieces out here that were not so great, trying to figure out what I was going to do with this. But what I came up with is I'm going to cut off this back piece of frame right here, because I'm just going to rebuild it. And then I also got a little bit of rust here I'm going to take out. So I got that outline. I'm going to take that out, put some new metal in there. But anyway, so I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to put new pieces in here, put a bunch of reinforcement on it, and then I'm going to try and rebuild a bunch of this. But all of this right here is probably coming out as well. So anyway, I'm going to cut all that out, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, let me show you the progress I made. So I got the rear section of the frame all hacked out here. This little cross piece on the bumper's gone. I trimmed back the bottom section of the quarter panel there because that was all rusted out anyway. Take you around to the back. So back here I took out this piece of the cross piece. That's what it's supposed to look like. I took this out. I'm going to replace that. And yeah, I got the frame cut off there on the back. Up inside here I got this piece out, which was out already. These holes are where I drilled out the weld to get the frame piece out, so I'll fill them in later. So I think now the next thing I need to work on is patching up this piece right here, and then I'll be putting an 1/8 inch plate across the back there as well, which will probably come over to here and then kind of just angle up to the corner there. And then obviously I'm going to need to do something about this piece of frame that's missing. So what I have for that is this. It's a piece of 4x3 square tube that I'm going to put up in there, get that all in place, and I'll build some brackets for the bumper mounts and stuff there. But anyway, I'm going to work on this section here next, I think. Alright, so I got that plate welded in. That is still hot, but that is that's that 1/8 inch plate I was talking about. That's gonna help me support stuff once I get this frame rail completed. And there's the plate on the inside. Alright, it's another day working on the XJ. So last time I was working on this piece, which is a piece to go on the rear of the frame here. And I got this this piece kind of ready, and so I'm going to continue doing that today, and we'll see how far we get. Alright, so I've been working on getting this back panel replaced back here, because this was all rusted out. So this piece right here is what I've been working on, and I got this right here so that if I need to get into the frame, because sometimes if you put a hitch on it or something, there's stuff you need to put in here. The nuts or panel or whatever goes in there. So I wanted to leave that open so that I could get into the frame. But anyway, I got that piece tacked in there right now. And if you don't remember, this is about what it looked like before I replaced it. So that's why I had to replace that panel. This is the other side, which I haven't done yet. This side I'm going to have to do the same thing, cut all that out and replace it. And I got rid of this on the other side right now. I'm probably going to put a couple supports with this piece, because this is like kind of structural for the back here. So I'm going to take a couple supports and put them onto there eventually. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But anyway, I was getting this all tacked in so that I can see how the back of the frame lines up. So let me take you around and show you that. So this is the back piece of the frame I've been working on. This is the replacement piece. I got it held in there and stuff and lined up. I'm getting pretty close to ready to tack that in. But before I do that, I want to put, there's a couple pieces, I want to put a couple pieces of angle right here, because that's where the bumper support goes in, and I'll take you back around back and show you that. So the bumper bracket attaches right about there, and normally there's some small pieces on the back side of this that connect the frame rail into this, and so I want to recreate that. I'm going to take a couple pieces of angle and put them on the other side, so that when I'm ready to put this back on, all I have to do is figure out where it lines up and drill some holes, and it should be all good and connected in. This is all going to get welded up too. It's just tacked right now. But so anyway, I'm going to measure cut some angle to go on the back of this and work on that. Alright, so I thought I'd give you a little closer look at the old frame. So this is the frame piece that I cut out, and you can see what I was talking about there. There's those spots where the bumper bracket attaches. So on the regular frame, it's just really a couple little thin ears, because this whole frame is really just sheet metal, so it's not particularly strong, and so I'm replacing it with a lot thicker stuff that'll hopefully hold up pretty well. Alright, so in an effort to try and keep this frame somewhat straight, I've been using this laser level. And so it casts a really nice straight line for me. You can see it along the floor there, and then you can see it up on the frame, right along the edge of the frame there. It misaligns here because the frame goes in at this point, which is fine. But then right back here where the frame comes back out again, and right on the corner of the frame there, and right on the corner of the frame here. And so I think that that is pretty straight. Hopefully it'll be straight enough. But yeah, this thing's been super useful. They're not too expensive. This one I got off of Amazon for like 60 bucks, I think. And it does, you know, all kinds of different directions. You got vertical that way, horizontal, two different horizontal. So it's like 2 ways in both directions, yeah. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, I'm just using it as a straight line to try and keep this frame somewhat straight. Alright, so I got this back support piece on. Right there. Alright, so it's another day in the garage working on the XJ. So last time we got this piece in. So that's in there good and solid. Got some nice reinforcement on there. I'm going to add some more pieces here to tie this in. And then probably a couple reinforcement pieces just to tie this whole piece back into the structure. But that's in there good and solid. So I'm going to finish tying it into the structure over there, and then probably next I'm going to work on inside here. I got to fill in this little bit of the sheet metal where I cut it out, so I'll put stuff there, and then I got to put a piece of sheet metal in that hole. Alright, so I think I've finished up this back panel. Here's what it looks like. So I got it tied into this piece up here with there's some right there, some angle tying that into this piece, and then I put these two supports coming down so that this is all tied in good, and I got a brace on that as well because this originally came out over here. So that's all tied in real good. Hopefully that'll be strong enough. So that's what that looks like. And so now I think I'm going to work on trying to patch up some of these holes that I got here in the floor that I left open. So I'm just going to patch this one up, and then I got to do something about this hole too. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I got those holes patched up in the back, more or less. There they are, that's that little one. And this one back here is the big one where you can see the ground. And it's not fully attached there, but it's, you know, connected good enough. I'm going to cover all of this with seam sealer before I put it all together, so that'll fill up any gaps that are left. Some of this, like this, was pretty rusty here. It was blowing through pretty bad there. I tried to fill it in, but then there are other spots it blew through too. So I may have to replace some more metal there, or I may just cover it up with seam sealer and call it a day. But I mean, that's in there. So the holes are more or less patched. I still got a nice hole in there on the fender. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that yet, because eventually I'm probably going to cut these fenders out and make them bigger for larger tires, but not right now. So I think that's going to do it for right now. I didn't get around to doing the back section of the frame, but maybe we'll get a chance to do that next time. But that's going to be it for me tonight. So thanks for watching.